This is the Bruticus Maximus set from the Revenge of the Fallen line. There's a lot to talk about, so I'll try to keep it brief. Also, this video review is part 1 of 2. This part will go over the set as it comes right out of the box, and part 2 will cover the Fans Project add-on kits, Explorer and Munitioner. So let's get on with it! Kicking off the review will be Vortex and Swindle. They're both the same toy, they just have different paint applications. So here they are in chopper mode, and give or take they are roughly Apache shaped. Both blades spin freely, a must for any chopper. They each come with one of these gun things that can be applied a few different ways. Like this, or like this. I think the guns would be way more intimidating if they weren't clear plastic. They also each come with one of these Energon Star chip things. They can plug right onto the top here. And Vortex has a V1 tamper-graphed here. Swindle has a $sign tamper-graphed on both sides. And the Decepticon symbols are here on the top. I think these copters look a little odd, but I still like them. It'd be nice if they had a little more firepower. Cough, foreshadowing cough. And that's about it for chopper mode. Let's robot. These robot modes are a lot of fun, but a bit blocky and or chunky in the torso. 360 head, ball jointed shoulders, ball jointed elbows, 360 waist, ball jointed hips, ball jointed knees, pivot in the foot. Simple and effective, great posability for a scout class toy. They still have these gun things here that can be used like this, or even as melee weapons. Of course they still have these star chip things and they'll go right on the back there. And also, as you see here, the blades can be positioned however you want, or they can just hang down. Overall, fun and well-designed toys. They can look a little odd in either mode, but it comes down to taste, and I love this toy. It does help that these toys form combiner limbs. Here we have both arm and leg configurations. The main difference is how the gun is arranged to form either a hand or a foot. Moving on to Blast Off and Brawl next. These guys are also just repaints of each other, sharing a mold, but what a great mold it is. The alt modes are anti-aircraft tanks, basically Gepard shaped, and they look really good. The turret can rotate 360, and both of these guns independently move up and down. They've also got cannons along the side of the turret here, and 2 sticking out the front. So they already have a ton of firepower. But hell, they also come with these guns that you can slap on the top here to make them even more badass. At least that would be badass if it wasn't clear plastic. They've also got the star chip things that'll go on the front right here. Also, Brawl has one MJ9 tamper-graphed on the front there. It says Brawl if you turn it over. Cute. Also, Blastoff has BO in the front. Classy, Hasbro. Also a nice little star there, because it used to be a space shuttle. Get it? And the Decepticon symbols are on the top here. They kind of roll. Not much else to say. Let's robot. These robot modes are frickin' sweet, as long as you ignore these silly plank feet. These knee pads are rad though. Plank feet aside, check these guys out! The 6 small guns that were along the turret and tank mode are now shoulder cannons, and the main guns are massive arm cannons. How rad is that? They also still have these clear plastic guns, but they have little to no use for them. They're just so oversized and they look ludicrous in their hands. And of course the star chip things still work in this mode. They go right on their chests here, just like that. Ugh, all that clear plastic looks so silly. I'm just gonna set that junk to the side. 360 head that the shoulder cannons move with. Ball shoulders, ball elbows, 360 arm cannons, 3 swivel tread kibble movement, 360 waist, ball hips, ball jointed knees, hinged feet. Right on par with the 2 choppers, just disposable in wonderfully good ways. About the only thing left to comment on, other than how awesome this toy is, would be the tread kibble here on the back. It doesn't look bad, and even gives them a little character. It can be moved around and repositioned a lot. Or you can just take them off. Of course they also form arms and legs to the combiner, made simply by plugging in this to the front of the tank mode, and you can just fold for hands. Now then, leader time. Here's Onslaught. His alternate mode is a made-up, 8-wheeled armored carrier of some kind, with a big-ass missile pod atop. The front end of this alternate mode looks frickin' sweet, and the missile pod is totally awesome. It even will go up and down and rotate 360. But once you get past that, you realize that's all it has going for it. The back end just kind of peters out into this mess. You can also see Onslaught's head right there. They couldn't add in an extra fold-out panel for that? Something, come on. Unfortunately, he comes with no weapons and no star thing, but if you have an extra one, you can peg it onto the front here. It's also worth noting that he's got posts and ports on the side of his missile pod, so either of these weapons can plug in there, if you really wanted to. And lastly, in case you didn't know who this is, it has ON-SLT on the front there. Onslaught. And a C5. I'm not positive what the C5 stands for, and I'm going to spare you my guesses. Overall, a mostly unimpressive alternate mode, with a badass rocket pod atop. If only someone would make something that would fix this mess. Cough, foreshadowing, cough. He makes for an impressive robot mode, aside for his large backpack, which, ironically, is the entirety of the good half of the alternate mode. Some more designer love would have taken this toy from good to amazing. But again, the backpack can be forgiven because he's the main torso of a combiner. And he can also stand up alright, more or less, due to these decent heel spurs here. I'm not a huge fan of the head on this guy. I mean, it looks like somebody slapped a couple of film tins on the side of his helmet. A bonus is that he's nice and posable. 360 head, 2-axis shoulders, rotate 360 above the elbow, 90-degree elbows, 360 waist, 2-axis hips, rotate 360 above the knee, and 90-degree knees. Overall, a solid and good-looking bot with an almost totally passable alternate mode. He really did need to come with a weapon of some kind. Thankfully, the two tanks don't really need their silly clear weapons, and they fit quite nicely into Onslaught's hands. As a group, these guys look great, a real force to be reckoned with. Both in their alternate modes and in their robot modes, they are ready to kick some ass. But that's not all, no. Let's take it up a notch. Combination time! So here he is, Bruticus Maximus, the main event. That falls a little short. Here he is in his default configuration, with each of his bots in the generally accepted positions that you'll find in his G1 counterpart. Blastoff and Vortex as arms, Swindle and Brawl as legs. He looks a little silly and has two big downfalls. The first being his lack of any real weapon. I guess you can pretend he has finger beams, and you can also fiddle with the tank bits and pretend those would work in a pinch. His second downfall is his lack of articulation. He has a 360-degree head, 2-axis shoulders, 360 waist, 2-axis hips, 360 above the knee, 90-degree knees. Admittedly, he does have a decent amount for a combiner, but he really needs some kind of arm movement like an elbow or something. You can give him some more movement in both arms if you do a bit of creative transformation. The tank is easy. All you have to do is unpeg the tank treads and move them up. Then you can use the hips and knees of the smaller bot as a double elbow. And if you move the turret out of the way, you can even use his waist joint as a bicep swivel. I would say to use both of the tanks as arms, but the helicopters make terrible legs. These feet just don't stand up to much, and if you put weight anywhere other than right there, he'll just fall his ass over. The fix for the copter arm is a bit more complex, and leaves the arm looking short and stubby, and all it effectively adds is an elbow. And it just looks ugly, so I think you're better off leaving it alone. After all is said and done, this is how I've chosen to display him for so long. I love the stability that the tanks add to his legs. You can just plop him down and he'll stand. And the copters make good-looking, though quite stiff arms. Final thoughts? Each of the smaller bots are a lot of fun and competent on their own. And all 5 bots come together to form this wonderful gestalt. He's a large, impressive, menacing-looking bot who could pound most other bots into the ground. Sure, this toy has some faults, but out of my entire collection, this guy is my favorite. That's right. Out of all these toys, I will quite happily and gladly say that this is my favorite toy. I love it that much. So what could possibly make it better? A little something called Crossfire 02. Stay tuned for that and subscribe to not miss out.